when I do my paintings, I'll look at it and I say to myself, wow, this feels very flat. So what do I do to help that? Then the light bulb has to go off in my head and I go, oh yeah, I forgot my core shadows. So come along with me and we'll talk about how we can help our things go a little bit more round. So how do I help things stay round? Well, take notice. There is your very strong highlight. Then you have like a mid-tone, and between that there's a half-tone. And then there's the darkest part where the light doesn't reach. That's called the core shadow. And then from the core shadow, it goes over to the very edge where you can catch some reflective light. Sometimes it's a little hard to see the reflective light depending on how strong or how subtle your light may be. But an easy way to see it, if you notice, I'll use my hand to reflect the light off of my hand. That makes it easier to see this core shadow section. By doing that, keeping that in mind, we actually help things to feel more round. So when you're painting, remember that darker core shadow section. To help you get a better example of what I'm talking about, we're going to look at a close friend of mine's art, Thomas Blackshear, excellent artist, does incredible work. I've always been amazed at his skill set. He's more gifted than most people that I know personally. We're going to look at a close-up on this particular painting called Crow to help us understand a little bit more about core shadow in various areas. So notice the darker edge on the folds in the sleeve. That will represent the core shadow. And like here, it moves from there into that reflective light. And again, on this arm ring, we're seeing the core shadow and the reflective light. We see the same thing again here on the chin, going into that lighter reflective area just underneath it. So Thomas gives us a really good example of keeping things dimensional. Check out his work at thomasblackshear.moonfruit.com. I think you'll really love what you see. Now we want to set an example of something flat. Now we have a flat object here. And on this flat object, we have the strongest light, we have the shadow side, and of course, the more contrasty area may be here. As the shadow side falls away, it's catching some of the reflective light. I like to paint where it's darkest here and let it gradually get slightly lighter. Same thing here. I like to paint where it's the lightest here and maybe gradually get a little darker. But sometimes you can do it the other way. But I like things to gradate rather than being all flat. That tends to give us more dimensionality as well. So which box tends to protrude more at the corner? I hope you are seeing the box on the right as the one that visually seems to do that. And what have I done? I've added a little bit more light in these areas. So if we keep those things in mind, we can help with more dimensionality in our work. But there are times we have more reflective surfaces, and they can be very tricky because the light may be bouncing. It may not be a one-point light. We may be catching light from different angles. Yet, I maintain the basic principle, finding where can I put my basic core shadow and then allow for those reflective lights to come in. It'll still work. It'll still give me dimensionality. So just know the principle, apply the principle, and then allow the bounce lights, whatever it is. If it's very reflective, same principle. Continue painting. Get those things nice and round, very dimensional, and they'll look so much better. Hope you enjoyed the tips. So, if you find this helpful, check out my site, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.